So after we sew the casing together and we've left that 1 to 2 inch opening in the back, by the back seam, we're going to go ahead and cut our elastic. And the thing that you need to do is take your tape measure and measure around your waist where you want your shorts to sit. So not right at your waist, but maybe an inch below your belly button if that's where you're going to have them. So I'm actually making these for someone else, so I know that I need to have about 30 inches of elastic, and so I'm just going to measure that out. And be careful that you don't cut the tape measures. You wouldn't believe how many times I've seen tape measures cut because somebody was cutting for their elastic. Okay, and then this is just scrap. It can be thrown away. Right now, I need something to help me push this through here because the end of it's kind of mushy and it doesn't want to move. So I'm going to take a safety pin, and you don't want to just stick it in the end like this because sometimes it'll actually work its way loose. So I usually do an in and out near the end of the elastic. I also need a straight pin, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that in a minute. So my technique is called push, 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 pull back. And so what I'm going to do is I take my elastic and I stick it into the tunnel and I push. I'm holding it in my non-dominant hand, or in my dominant hand, and I'm pushing the fabric onto the pin, and I do it 3 or 4 times, and then I pull that fabric across the elastic so I don't have a big bunch. Okay. Now, one of the things I don't want to do is have this thing go flying in the tunnel. And so what I usually do then is I just take a straight pin and stick it in the very end through the seam allowance here, so it's not in like the thinnest part of the fabric, it's through the thicker part, and that way I can keep that tail from going through there. So I'm going to just keep pushing through here. I'm going to tell you, when you get to the seam allowances, sometimes if they are pressed the opposite direction that you are going, they will be kind of difficult to get through. And if you didn't make your casing the size that you were supposed to, which was 1.5 inches, and then stitch close to the edge, then you also could have a problem. I need to scoot my elastic around, and I don't want this to come undone here, so I'm just putting a pin there to hold it. And I'm just going to scoot this so it's more evenly distributed. And it wants to get caught here. I'm just going to give it a little help to get through there. It's caught on, there we go. It's caught on something. Just be careful, those straight pins are kind of sticking up and you don't want to jab yourself. Okay, so taking this one out again, and I'm just keep like working my way through the tunnel. One of the things that I did with these front pockets is I left the basting in that's holding the pockets in place, because once I take that out, that's going to be a loose spot, and I could end up getting in the wrong part of the tunnel, and then I'm going to have a problem. Like right now, I'm pushing against a seam allowance, and I've just got to take my fingers and wiggle it so that I'm actually getting in between the layers of the seam allowance, so I can just keep on pushing through. I am almost to the back. I don't have any more seams to go. But I'm going to do that trick again where I stick the pin in and redistribute a little bit, because I'm getting kind of a short tail here. Alrighty. And you really do want to do something to keep this tail from going inside the tunnel, because once it gets inside of there, if it's in there very far, it is almost impossible to get out. And then the only thing you can do is just pull all the elastic out and start over again, which is not a fun thing to do. That's why I came up with that little pin thing. Okay, well, I got that tail in, and I am going to pull this out just a little bit more until I get the tail actually all the way out. Stuck in there. All right. And then I'm going to take this one here, and I'm going to overlap them. I think I might have a twist in it, but right now all I'm going to try to do is redistribute my my gathers. So I'm going to put the pin in there to hold the two ends together. And I just kind of want to move these around a little bit so it's not all bunched up in the one spot. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to that. What I'm going to do then is I want to trace around here and make sure that this does not feel twisted anywhere at all. Because once I sew these two ends together, if there's a twist in there, it's not going to lay flat and it's going to be uncomfortable. So I'm going to pull the two ends out. And I want to overlap them about 1 inch. Now, one of the things that you can do before you do this step that I'm going to show you right now to get ready to sew, I already know what size elastic I need, and my person isn't here for me to try it on. But what I want you to do is once that safety pin is in there and you have it distributed all the way around, you've got it pinned together like this, slip them on and see if that waist is tight enough. If it isn't tight enough, then you can tighten it up a little bit. I have these overlapped a little bit over 1 inch, and that's okay because this is stretchy and that should pull it in enough. And then I'm just going to put a couple of pins in here. This is really thick elastic, so keep that in mind when you're trying to pin through it. And what we're going to do then is I want you to do zigzag about 1/4 of an inch from this edge and maybe about 1/4 of an inch from this edge. So I want you to zigzag across, and we're going to go back and forth and then back and forth in 2 spaces so this will really hold together. So I'm heading off to the sewing machine, and I'll meet you up there.